Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of After the Snuff, your weekly Moneta Bank recap. I'm your host, John Millsip, and today it's my most and least anticipated episode of After the Snuff because I have Simona and Kyle here, who were absolutely my two favorites on this entire season. And I get it, Kyle. I'm a little biased towards you, but Simona, you won my heart through this entire season recording it, and I'm very happy yet disappointed I am speaking to you two so soon and together. How terrible! But alas, here we are. Thank you both for joining me. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Happy to be here. It's been fun reliving it all. Some of it is certainly a bit of a fever dream just due to how beyond delirious I was near the end of it. But yeah, no, happy to get some closure and talk it all through.
Yeah, I feel a lot of the same sentiments. Watching through the episodes has been a blast. I've been devouring them pretty much live if I can, and as fast as possible, including, of course, this segment of After the Snuff. So it's exciting to have the time to, yeah, talk about things that maybe we didn't get a chance to speak about, or things that didn't get aired out in the edit.
All right, well, let's dive into this game. And Simona, I'm going to come to you first because you had this very unique distinction this season of being on a different continent than everyone else, meaning that you were playing at a completely different time than everyone else. Kyle, you're playing from the West Coast. You're up at like 8 o'clock for this game to start. Simona,
So,
you were in Rome. Very different experience for you, where Kyle gives up his whole day. You give up your entire night. Just tell us about that.
I mean, yeah, I was pretty prepared to do that, but also not. Like mentally I was like, yeah, it'll be good. But no, as we started to tick towards 4 a.m., I really started to have to hold on for dear life a little bit. Um, but it it was fine. I mean, it was great. There were definitely moments where I was like, damn, I should have had more snacks in the fridge. But 'cause, once you get to 4 a.m., there aren't really things that are open. Um, but no, I mean, aside from the fact that I had somewhere to be at 8 a.m. the next morning, it was fine time wise. Like, wouldn't do it again, I think. Um, you know, then again, if I were to be playing again, like anytime soon, right? I would be like Kyle getting up at 7 in the morning, and I would much rather start at 4 p.m. than 7 in the morning. So I'll take my wins.
I mean, that's fair. Kyle, conversely, you're the 7 a.m. guy. I mean, I'm also 7 a.m. I'm up before 7 a.m. because I have to get everything ready for when you show up. But how's
Mhm.
that feel?
I was actually, for me, I was quite happy that it was first thing in the morning. Um, Accustomed to it mostly from getting up to play Magic online events, or
Mhm.
sometimes, when you're out tournament traveling, you're up early. And I just think when you know it's going to be, well, hopefully a very long experience, I do like just kind of starting and using the first hour to wake up. Maybe, that's could be strategic, because if you're a little like bleary eyed, I won't, put my foot in my mouth right away and then be like too energetic. And then, yeah, I thought the timing was great.
Well, I don't know about preventing yourself from being too energetic because that has been the sentiment of everyone leading up to finding you in the game is, you know, you're super energetic. You are all out. You're going wild. You're so happy. You're so go lucky. And you just exude this presence that makes everyone kind of wary of you. Did you think you would have that type of target just from presenting yourself in the game right away?
Um, I wasn't too sure. I think that, like, I guess talking, just straight up talking a lot, or choosing to talk in an open forum setting, can be bad and good, but I didn't really think too much about that, because I just knew that I was going to speak when I wanted to, I guess. And it would either work or it would make things hard. And I guess it kind of did both. It made it hard, but it mostly worked, I guess. I got to play my game. So I don't think it's necessarily a detriment. Whereas sometimes it for other people, I guess it can be.
For sure. Well, Simona, you kind of played the opposite, except you were kind of forced to play the opposite way because your tribe kept winning in the first half of this game. And you definitely aired your frustrations about that in confessional. Like, talk us through that. Talk us through the fact that you didn't get opportunities to have one-on-ones with anyone in the pre-merge.
Yeah, I mean, for that exact reason, I frankly, like, not even for that exact reason, but truly just in general, I will always be a big proponent of going to tribal in the pre-merge stage of the game. Um, then again, like that happened in a game I was in recently, and then I went home at that tribal. So like, you pick your battles. But it is really important for the longevity of the game to understand where you are with people and just establish those relationships. And I think, frankly, I think not being able to do so in those early rounds is like ultimately what led me to place where I did. I think like had I been able to like solidify some stronger relationships, like maybe because I think my perception still of what happened is that Evan was just like wary of me and like didn't trust me enough, and that was what led him to flip, or he like got excited and wanted to make a move, either way. But I think if we had had a stronger connection locked down through one-on-one conversations that we were able to have rather than just kind of like vibes and me being like, is this eye contact, on a big call or not? I think I probably could have snuck through that vote because he really did steal my fate there. And yeah, I mean, even with the people who I was pretty solid with, it didn't really feel that way. Just because of the lack of ability to like really talk things through and the lack of like opportunity to like solidify that with a vote, right?
Yeah.
Like Karli was awesome. I loved her, and I think she was pretty loyal to me, but like I was so unsure of that, like truly for the longest time. So yeah, I not being able to like really talk to people early in the game, like really until the merge, was totally a huge detriment. I think it's what led their tribe to come in with like, I think it's at least what made me like scared of them. Because in a normal context, right, I'm very much not someone who plays with tribal lines, and I wouldn't argue that I necessarily did. I was very open, but on the other hand, I was like, these people have on paper played so much
Yeah.
more than I have at this point. And that's scary to let someone with that like huge difference get really far.
Yeah, and it's also kind of intimidating when the first time you get a chance to really talk to people one-on-one is in a merge setting when there are so many more people that you have to talk to too. And like you kind of know some of these people, but they're also all these new people you need to meet in that instance as well. It's a tricky situation, but Kyle, on the inverse, like you continued to go to tribal council and you had some wild tribal councils go down in that pre-merge. So talk us through that experience of just like constantly having to play the game.
Yeah, it it I think was a lot of fun in the end because yeah, just lots of crazy things happened, lots of what if moments, a couple stick out, of course going to rocks, which I found was just super exciting. Of course with all these I was sure to, once we were in that merge, tell everybody about what happened. Which this is one thing I'm actually very curious about how people's true feelings is. I thought it was the most normal thing to just say, hey, you guys didn't get to see any of this. Here's some of the details of what happened without, well, maybe hopefully being too clear about, oh, this is precisely the outcome I did or didn't want. But it definitely sensed in watching back that people thought it was like, oh, you're very quick to share all this information. But it's like, this is just what's happening in the game we're playing that you guys weren't privy to with your big victories. So it's like, here you go. Like something like that. But I also think it prepared me and others for the future scrambling section
Mhm.
pretty well.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point where a lot of people, because watching these episodes back, it's very clear you're very forthcoming with the information of what people missed, but it's never in a way where it's really revealing the exact machinations of everything. It's just like, it's very matter of fact to the point. This is what happened. This is the outcome. This is what was going down. And from my point of view, it seems like you're just trying to get ahead and be that first person to share that information because it's information everyone has and can give. But a lot of the time in Survivor, we talk about how information is power and knowledge is power in this game, right? So it really depends on who you're speaking with as to whether they view that as oh, we can't trust him, or oh, this guy trusts me too much, or he's willing to jump ship. And it's just, there's so many different layers you have to kind of play on because you're not sure how the other person's going to respond.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I would think, and we don't know, I'm not fully accurate, but I feel like a lot of times I would share it in a group setting. And it's already pretty much impossible to control how one person is going to take information and react. It certainly is when you've got 3 or 4 people. So I didn't really think about it like that. It was more just, well, I want to share what happened. They could do it what they want.
Well, let's talk about this one major vote in the pre-merge here first. You go to Rocks.
Sound like Simona might have had something to say.
Oh, Simona, yeah,
point.
You go right ahead.
Oh no, yeah, I was just gonna say I view it as like pretty neutral. Like I think that's my view, at least personally. Obviously, different people come in with different perspectives, but I think I would view it, at least personally, like the same way that you are like putting it out. Like, this is what happened. Like, okay, cool, thanks for catching me up. Oh, you survived Rocks, then you're a threat. That's why you're a threat, because you survived Rocks.
Right.
Okay, surviving Rocks. Like, talk us through that tribal council and everything that happened in that round.
Okay, yeah. So with that one, it was more complicated than I really thought it would be. And I think I said something to this effect in my confessional once I was finally out about how in a round where we would be forced to vote pre or post merge, I would generally start the conversation with somebody, whoever the 1 or 2 people is in a room with, and put out a name to see what would happen. I also just wouldn't say my own name, of course. So in that instance, the first thing I did is go to Andy and go, hey, are we going to vote Jabbar maybe? Because that was an option for us to vote. And it didn't take long for him to say, well, that's not a great decision for these reasons, mostly with numbers. And I was agreeable to that. And then he also said, we're going to vote Naropa. Or I don't know if he said it directly or if it was just decided. I don't quite recall, but it was just the choice. And I thought that was it. And we had 4 and they had 2. Unbeknownst to me, Andy wanted to do something else. And unbeknownst to Andy, he was going to make it harder for himself. Because we all saw it, I guess. It was fascinating. Well, at least to me, I didn't think he was flipping Jabbar. I thought he was just, kind of, or like reflipping him, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought he was just sort of solidifying and sort of showing a show of power to Emily and Naropa, like, hey, tribal lines, all these sort of, what you would expect to hear. And then it went the way it did.
It did, and it got wild.
Stolen idol and all.
Yeah, stolen idol and all. But taking Rocks, let's transition into this episode because you mentioned Rocks a lot in this episode. This first episode we have here. So we're coming off of the Yap boot, and Simona, you were pretty close with Yap in this game. Like, how's it feel having Yap go in that first vote, or in that last vote where you original Argentos had to cannibalize yourself at that point because Kyle had immunity and Kayla just yeeted herself out of that tribal council?
It was bad. Yeah, like I don't know if I said this, but like Yap was someone that I was pretty sure that I not like had in my pocket, but like someone who I knew would have my back for like a good minute. I figured he'd probably cut me end game, but like most people do. So that wasn't much of a red flag in my opinion. Yeah, no, losing him was like not great. I thought I mean, I think it was the first warning sign of like something bad is coming. And like
Mhm.
I knew my position. Like, you know, when I left, I was pretty sure. Like I was like, I know I'm the one catching votes here. I'm usually able to get a pretty good sense for that. I just didn't expect the way that it went down was odd. But yeah, no, Yap leaving was not great because I don't think he would have voted me out in that way. And especially given the other options when I was around. So yeah, definitely a bit of a red flag and a sign to pivot for sure.
All right, so we start this episode, and Evan's talking about how Karli's really smart and should probably vote him out of the game. Kyle, what was your I mean, you spent a lot of time kind of like jockeying with Evan here, with his relationship with Kayla and everything. What were your impressions of Evan at this point in the game?
He was definitely causing a bit of trouble, but in a good way, like in the way that you kind of need to. I felt, and especially watching it back, he has a very good ability to kind of like to defend himself with sort of like incredulity of like, oh wait, did I say that? Like, how did that go down? And I love it. Like his performance, I would call it, is quite good because like you can see the evidence of like right before a conversation happens, and then when questioned, maybe it's it goes a different way. And I was observing some of these things in the tribal portion, right, when others were speaking, and I'm like, well, I don't know about that. Which, I mean, it's a cool thing to see, but it's also like, okay, this person really knows what they're doing. Socially, they're able to kind of pull some strings, I guess. So I had a high opinion of him.
Okay, Simona, did you have any like differing opinion of Evan at this point?
I thought he was a wild card. I knew he was someone who was gonna play.
Mhm.
I could definitely sense that from his like demeanor and his energy. Um, but I mean, I really liked him. You know, the bagel is like honestly one of my core memories from this mini. Um, no, seriously, I thought that was hilarious, and maybe I was just so beyond delirious, but like I thought it was quite funny. And so yeah, no, I really enjoyed Evan, and I think I said this in confessional in a bit, but I really wanted to work with him in Yap,
Mhm.
and like a little bit more explicitly try and like at least talk about that. And I think that's probably at least partially because I felt better with Karli, and I felt like those were probably the relationships that I needed to improve more. So those were conversations I wish I'd had. But yeah, I really liked Evan. I thought he had good energy. I was back and forth on whether I thought he was a threat or not. I think
Mhm.
my opinion was kind of changing rapidly. It was like, oh, I could sit next to Evan in the end. Oh, I shouldn't do that. Oh, but like given the options, you know, like going back and forth a lot on kind of my game perspective of him. But he was definitely someone who was, I think I would say, a little bit trigger happy. I think he was just really excited to play and be there, and you know, I don't know if yeah, like did he really mean to send me home? At the time I wasn't so sure. I think in retrospect, like probably. But like it was all like, yeah, very, very confusing.
Mhm. Well, now that you've mentioned just like evaluating Evan as a threat, I think throughout this entire season and just watching you back here, you're the one who is really voicing the most reads for what you think, how you think people are, and it almost feels like at times in some of the scrambles, you're kind of screaming to the hills, guys, why aren't you listening to me? These people are the threats. What's that feel like? Like what is that? How is it to like, especially like watching back now and seeing the way these votes have gone? How does it feel to kind of have that idea of like, why was no one listening to me the entire time?
Oh, it's so aggravating. I mean, like, I always I like to pride myself on having good reads. And it's a weird thing because it's hard to know if you're right, but I
Mhm.
have some air of confidence that I am, and I am. So listen to me. Sometimes the read is off, right? But
Mhm.
no, yeah, I think like I think compared to the people in the game as well, like I've played so many of these that I kind of have an idea of like the types of people that emerge as threats and just based on perception, like kind of like you were saying earlier, like Kyle talking a lot in the big group, right? Just having that kind of presence in the
Mhm.
group, even if you're not necessarily the most present in the game, being present in the group kind of asserts you as someone who's like top of mind for people, especially in a mini like this where you don't get a lot of one-on-one time. And so like yeah, and like someone who's like played a lot so far, right? Been able to make a lot of moves, survive a lot. Yeah, it was pretty clear to me like these are the people who are having the perception of being respected essentially, and
Mhm.
like this is where the shot needs to go. And yeah, I think with Evan that was why I was a little bummed that I went out, because I wasn't blind to the fact that I probably had some credit, though that is usually the one thing that is my blind spot, is like what my perception is. I can be
Mm.
pretty unsure or wavering because it's hard to know or be sure about your perception of yourself. um but I thought it definitely didn't make sense for him to take a shot at me there. And for others, I mean, with others I just wasn't sure where they stood, like I
Right.
said, so it was hard to tell. But yeah, no, I thought the threats were pretty apparent, and it was a little bit like, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Well, and building on that, Kyle, in this episode, right before we go to tribal council, Simona even says to you, "You don't stand a chance of beating Kayla in the end," and you are very quick to rebut. Yeah, I do. Walk us through that, because I thought it was really interesting how you were evaluating the people on the jury.
Yeah, I thought at that time um, that there would potentially be some hard feelings, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would have more towards me. Like, there was, comments at exit from folks. So, but then again, also, uh, I'm also just not the type of person, because even if say Simona had like ironclad, like, and it was true, I also wouldn't be the person to be like, yeah, I'm gonna lose. I would just
Yeah.
never even say that. So I think I was probably reacting first and then thinking about it. Um, I don't know. I'd be curious to ask the jurors, like, hey, if it was
Mhm.
a two there, how would it go?
Well, I mean,
Um,
you can ask them at the reunion when you're all together again.
yeah, maybe.
Uh,
I think it would have been fun, at least, because I mean,
mhm.
in a lot of ways, the game we played was like kind of similar. Um, so yeah, I don't really know.
Well, that's a big thing, and I think it's kind of impossible to talk to you, Kyle, without talking about Kayla, because you two were so connected in this game. Obviously, you guys started that connection at the very beginning. You are the last two remaining Oro members in the game, and even when it seems like you're getting to this point of insurmountable odds, you still manage to flip the vote on Simona in this first episode, and it even kind of comes down to the wire as to whether one of you or Kayla is going to go when you go home.
Yeah, yeah, the way that, especially that the 5 vote broke down, but I guess on the previous one, um, that was, I mean, that vote was kind of all Evan, really.
Yeah,
Evan was
I agree.
fully in control there, um, and it was kind of apparent what the overall plan was. I
Mhm.
think it was really well played. Um, yeah, just being able to simplify things, right? Remove people and remove advantages.
Mhm.
But then again, same thing where that also is sort of like a harbinger of doom, because that specifically means, okay, he saved Kayla. Does that mean he wants to vote Kayla directly next round? Probably not.
Yeah.
Which means maybe me. So then, yeah, not winning the battleships was tough, and especially watching it back, I feel like I was doing the best at memorizing what was going on. because people were making comments to that effect that like they were confused and scrambled and maybe not. And I think I don't know if it's shown in the edit, but I'm quite certain I remember not everyone was aware that battleships could be in this orientation in this game.
Yeah.
They were thinking only along like the cardinal directions, which makes quite the difference.
Yes.
So yeah, by the time once Sam won, I was already feeling pretty poorly about my chances. And it played out exactly the same way you'd figure it would. It was kind of just be a bit of a, okay, is it Kyle or is it Kayla? And then Kayla did make a good argument that Sam could have potentially increased his resume by flipping there. But then the flip side of it is someone could argue, well, if you want to believe that Kyle and Kayla were the highest threats in the game and you didn't take a chance to get rid of them one, then that's just a bad play. Right? So I don't know if I really believe Kayla when she's like, oh, you'll have a better chance of winning against me and Kyle than Evan and Karli. But I mean, you have to say that, right? Same thing.
Yeah.
Like, why would you just never say die sort of attitude? You wouldn't just be like, oh yeah, like it's logical to get rid of us right now, please. You wouldn't say that directly, even if it is true. So can't fault anyone for putting that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to dive into that tribal council a little bit more later, but first we've got to talk about this immunity challenge where you're told to hold a tree pose. Either of you familiar? Oh, Simona's not happy. Simona, please, like, go into it. Talk to me about it.
Oh, I just knew. Like I said, good reads. No, I mean, there was definitely something telling me like it's not looking too hot. It would be a good moment to pull out a win. But I saw that screenshot on the Instagram post and I was like, oh my God. Like, yeah, no. I mean, I wanted to hold on. I don't remember how much longer it ended up going after I dropped, but yeah, once my leg cramps up, it's kind of just over and there's not much you can really do about that. It's a good challenge. I remember my roommates coming home as I'm standing there, like, which is pretty stellar. But yeah, no, I knew I needed to pull out a win, and for it to be something physical like that was like, damn, not the most ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, Evan pops out his challenge advantage at this point and is like, hey, I'm going to use this challenge advantage. I guess we'll start 30 seconds later than everyone else.
Yeah.
But Kyle, you managed to go toe-to-toe with him there, to the point where we changed the pose on you guys because you're doing too well.
Yeah, my regret, I think I went on the wrong leg.
Interesting.
I was standing on my left leg, and being right-handed, I feel more sturdy if I'm standing on my right leg. Don't know why I did that, but it was too late. Because I was wavering a lot at various times, but I just felt like I was gonna keep going until like I really feel like I couldn't. It was fun. It was interesting to do. Difficult. I liked that there was like that was definitely the most, well, I mean, I don't really know what the other challenges were after I was out, but like the most physically difficult one. It was interesting. Because there's a lot of similar elements in some of the other challenges, so I really enjoyed that one.
Well, as like this challenge is coming to a close, you ask Evan, are we going to 5 together? And Evan's like, I'd like to. And then you drop out. Did you believe him in the moment, or is it just like, okay, this is just a fundamental, like, what has to happen here?
Oh, I kind of felt like it's what I had to say because it's usually what you like do in those spots, right?
Yeah.
But and then at the very least plants a bit of a seed where he goes, oh well, I guess I did say that, because he sounded like he was like sort of agreeable to it. I wouldn't have been upset necessarily if he didn't hold to that, because I mean you could say whatever you want. But it was kind of, yeah, just to sort of help maybe get the ball rolling to say, hey, not me right now.
Absolutely. So at the close of the challenge, after Evans won, Alex and McKenna announced that this is the last time that the vault will be in play. We see a mad scramble to get the vault right away, and Karli, Evan, Sam get there all at the same time. Kyle, you come in shortly after. and Karli's deemed to be there first. Karli gives 3 coins to Evan. Evan then purchases the safety without power. Evan made a comment, Kyle, that you came in and saw the menu. Did you make note that that is what Evan had purchased at that moment?
I don't even remember that, unfortunately. I'm hoping that it was like I joined in like sort of the allowable, oh, I thought I was going in first, and there was like that sort of, lag between clicking through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope I left promptly as well, because
Yeah.
I didn't really take any notes. I
Mm-hmm.
took notes in the first 2 challenges, despite, and someone actually made a comment. I think Vogl said something about it. Like it looks like I'm referencing notes constantly when I'm speaking with people, and there's nothing. So I definitely didn't note anything. Maybe I might have remembered something by accident, but no, I don't really even remember what happened there.
I don't remember if I took notes.
I don't know. I think notes are an interesting part about minis because some people take them like very aggressively. We see Kayla referencing them a lot throughout the episodes. I've noticed personally watching them back, but a lot of people you don't notice. But a lot of the times people know how to make notes in a way and like reference notes in a way where it isn't obvious that they're referring to them too. So it's really hard to tell how much note taking is done in these games. But it can be very beneficial, especially when you're trying to like connect with people on a more personal level. We see a conversation between Karli and Kayla, and Karli tells Kayla that she used the idol nullifier. She was intending to use the idol nullifier to take an idol from Kayla, but she used the safety without power. So she's like, okay, she doesn't have an idol. I will use the knowledge as power to take the idol nullifier that Yap has because we just voted him out. And this is kind of one of the big points of this episode because this conversation kind of evolves throughout this scramble where Kayla's like, okay, can I trust Karli? She's giving me this information. But then later on, it's divulged that the rest of the Argentos and everyone's pitching Kayla's name as the target in this vote.
Which was not a
And
bad call.
And then how on the flip side, there's this group of 4 kind of forming between Kayla, Kyle, yourself, Evan, and Karli. And it's like, okay, do we go after Simona or do we go after Sam here? And Kyle, you made a very interesting point when like trying to come to names here. And it was we could vote out Simona here, but like she's super tired because it's like 5 in the morning now. Do we just keep her because it'll be easier to beat her in challenges from now on?
I said that.
You said that.
Oh, I mean, that seems logical to me. I mean, that sounds harsh, but it's like I would think I would want to face someone who is up at 5 in the morning. just if that's like the difference maker. I think I'm okay with that line of thinking. I think I don't know if maybe I'm misremembering, but I think I might have also. Oh no, maybe I'm misremembering. I was gonna say something, but then it doesn't actually make sense. Or no,
Please.
I did. I was gonna say maybe keep Sam because it might be easier to get Sam to like control his vote in a future vote. I think I
Yeah.
was thinking that as well. I don't know. Maybe that's not true either because, well, we'll see what happens.
And this is the point where Evan's like, well, maybe we should go for Simona instead. And Karli said, but Karli also counters like Sam's kind of been hiding in the shadows. Like he's been there. He hasn't done a lot, but he's kind of like sneaking by. No one's ever really said his name as an actual target at this point. And I mean, that's another way to play this game. Like, get to the end. You can't win the game if you don't get to the end. And Sam seems to be posing himself or putting himself in a position where he can do so after these 2 episodes. With us going into Final Four at this point, he's at the pointy end of the stick. Again, like a lot of this scramble is essentially just these 2 ideas coming to head. It's like, is it Simona here or is it Kayla? Who's going on? And Simona, you are pitching Kayla hard here. Did you feel like you had gained any traction in this being the vote in this instance?
I mean, I hoped so because to me it only seemed logical. Like, kind of back to what you were saying, it was like, guys, like this is the direction. I think that to be entering Final 5 with 2 people that you perceive yourself to be losing to essentially no matter what is unwise. And I believed that to be true for everyone who entered the merge from my tribe, essentially. There was like some argument that, you know, could be made, but on paper, I really thought that anyone next to Kyle or Kayla, aside from each other, of course, was gonna lose, just like because they came into the merge as the biggest targets, right? They came in as the minority. And then if you're able to survive to the end, especially continuing to be targeted all along and still finding a way to make moves, that's certainly very impressive. And I think Final Six is a great time to take one of those shots. You know, I don't think I had done anything like insanely notable at that point. And I do agree that my vote was probably a little bit harder to control than Sam's, just because I don't know. I think Sam really needed a move. I don't think I felt like I like needed a move as much. And so I understand why it ended up being between me and Sam. But I think for Evan and Karli, like, I think it was bad timing. I think one of them needed to go, and then you flip at the next vote, right? You flip at 5, then there are 3 of you, it's 3-2, and then I go out. You know, and yeah, you risk me winning immunity, but like, okay, then you vote out Kyle, the other big threat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's I think it was poor timing, but I really believed that I could gain traction with the Kayla vote, just because it seemed logical. It made sense to me. You know, I was, of course, partially pushing it for my own survival, but also partially pushing it because it was, in my mind, what made sense. So.
And it did seem like you're having traction. I mean, we see Karli in confessional say, I don't think I can sit beside either Kayla nor Kyle because both of them just have a better story than me. And it's best for Karli at that point to sit with everyone from the original Argento tribe. It's easier to differentiate your story from the people who have a same story than it is to differentiate your story from people who have better stories than you. So I think Karli was on board to vote Kayla here for sure.
Yeah.
And it really came down to, like Kyle said, Evan dictated this vote. Evan was the one to decide. I don't think Evan was ever voting Kayla here. And of course he uses the safety without power to take Karli out of the equation. But that doesn't happen before Kayla is told, yeah, Karli's throwing your name out and said, like, she said with the original Argentos that she's voting for you. Kayla, right before tribal council, confronts Karli about it. And, you know, we jerks on production decided, hey, no, guys, sorry, tribal council time, get out of here. You're not able to finish this conversation. So it gets a little heated at this tribal council. And Kyle, you kind of come in at the end and you're like, dude, she's not even here anymore. Why does it matter?
Yeah, so the thing that I thought was odd with that, so, and I guess really like the performance maybe tricked me a bit too, because this whole time I remember, well, I can't not remember. I know Kayla has an idol here.
Right.
And I think that detail or possibility might have started to go away from the minds of people considering voting Kayla. Because if you were to imagine Evan's vote is unknown, and the nullifier, as I actually maybe unwisely reminded people, is now gone, because it's not just Karli, it's her items, is gone. I actually thought it made more sense for them to vote me in case there was an idol and then Evan didn't flip, because then they would just be losing anyways. Of course, Evan flipping made that not matter. But yeah, I guess because if you'd been planning to nullify on the previous round and she walked, I mean, she walks with an idol in her pocket, and I do feel like that detail became muddied, I guess, just in everything else that was being talked about. Maybe for the belief that just like a basic thought, like, oh, no way someone's going to be able to save themselves in 2 unique ways in back-to-back rounds. Like, you just like don't want that to be true, so you like maybe consider it less.
I think that's part of the equation, though, right? Because Kayla played the safety without power at the last tribal council, the idea of an idol kind of escaped everyone's mind there. Because even we do see that conversation in the scramble where Evan's like, do you guys think anyone has an idol? And Simona, you literally say no. I don't think so. And I think part of that is because I don't think any of you equated or like took into consideration that Kayla was getting so many tokens from people who had been voted out of the game.
Mhm.
And could
Yeah, I
possibly
mean,
purchase 2 expensive items.
yeah, no, I don't think it was like, I don't think I was in any way confident or like thinking that she had one. But I do definitely remember Karli playing the nullifier on Kayla that round, very much being part of the plan.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think the moment that Karli was gone was the moment I knew I was toast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I don't remember if I had any overt idol suspicion. Like I said, the vault just made it so muddy, and because I was just so not in there, I like didn't really have a super strong awareness to everything that was going on
Right.
with it, and all the like advantages that were coming out of it. But I definitely wasn't blind to the fact that Kayla had an idol. I feel like there was some reason that I believed she might have had one, but because I don't know, I just remember Karli playing the nullifier on her was part of the plan.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know, mess, honestly, mess, very
Yeah, I mean,
mess.
this tribal council gets kind of wild. Obviously, like, Kayla's like, yo, Karli, before Kayla can even confront Karli, Evan's like, I am sending Kayla or Karli away, which is interesting because it was something we were talking about in the last After the Snuff about the timing of when to use advantages. And Evan
Yeah.
is really the first person to use it very aggressively here, get ahead of the knowledge is power and make sure that he can use this advantage. Even though I think there was like a 0% chance anyone with a knowledge of power would be stealing one from an advantage from Evan in this situation. Um, Very smart because it allows him to dictate this vote. Is really what it comes down to. He takes a final 6 vote, turns it into a. He takes a final 6 vote where the one person who wouldn't be safe in that situation in the 3 that he is working with, which is you, Kyle, would be on the wheel, and he's like, no, we're getting rid of all of those variables. We are just doing this by taking Karli out of this equation. It's really, again, like it's a very aggressive move, but it's a very smart move of how to use this. But we kind of see in the next episode, it does sow a little bit of distrust when it comes to Karli. But Evan's kind of able to smooth that out over that scramble.
Hmm.
Yeah. And maybe it was the knowledge is power, not the idol nullifier, but like same story.
Yeah.
Same story.
Well, and I mean that unfortunately takes us to the point where Simona gets voted out. It's sad. You do place your bet on Karli and bequeath her your coins. So throughout this entire game, like Karli and you are really solidifying as number ones. You even say it in this episode, no, we're number ones. But it seems from the edit, like what we're seeing in these episodes, Karli's real number one was Evan. Did you feel at that moment that you were Karli's number one? And did you have any idea of how close Evan and Karli were getting throughout the game?
I don't really feel like I truly felt like I had a number one. I
Mhm.
think I wanted someone to be able to say it to. I felt like I really needed to sit next to Karli at the end, or she was one of the people that I needed to sit next to at the end. And so I think I was trying to sow some deeper trust there by being like, hey, I really got you. And I think this is wise for both of us. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, because I wasn't able to establish those super strong connections early on, I kind of was wary of many people. I think I did have some more trust in Karli because there was a very clear sense that Evan was interested in flipping.
Mhm.
And Karli, I didn't get that from as much. And also just like I think she has a very good chance at the end,
Mhm.
given the final 4. And I think that she knew that, or at least I hoped that she knew that sitting next to Kayla or Kyle was unwise for her. And so for that reason, I kind of like, whether or not we were truly number ones, I hope she was gonna like side with me or
Right.
whatever in the circumstances. But yeah, no, I definitely struggled to keep a hold on my relationships just due to the lack of like reaffirming I was able to do throughout the game. Yeah.
Definitely. There is one point in the game we haven't really touched on with you, Simona, and that is at the merge, you were not in that group of the original Argentos who decided to put the vote on Jabbar. And you were kind of like, I don't really want to do this because Jabbar seems really willing to work with us. Who would you have wanted the vote to go on in that situation?
I think I wanted it to be Andy. Lizard Brain Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I think that was what I wanted, just because he, from what I was hearing, he seemed like a bit of a force of chaos. And was someone from the other side. And, you know, if someone like Kyle is taking up a lot of the public like discourse and everything, that's someone you kind of want to keep around as someone that people are going to continue to target. That felt like a good alternative. I mean, Jabbar is someone that I knew coming into the game, and so that definitely was a factor there. I do know him as a good player, so frankly, him leaving there probably was not the worst thing. But yeah, I definitely wanted to go a different direction, and take out someone who I thought I was gonna not be able to connect with as well. I mean, yeah, and I don't think Andy and I ended up voting together once. But people seemed pretty set on that, I think. So happens.
Well, and now the most important question of the game. How many days do you need to recover after this and going into a wine tour right afterwards?
Oh my god, which was awesome, by the way.
Good. I'm sure it's exactly what you needed after
probably
playing a game all night.
Probably the best meal I like. I don't know, maybe it was just the fact that it had been this like long day, but no, it was like 3-4 courses. Like it was awesome, and it was all food that they like made at the winery. Oh, I slept on the bus, which was good. I think it was like a 1 to 2 hour bus. So I slept for like, so funny. I remember waking up in like, I think it was the middle of like final try. Like I think I asked a question. Like I don't remember. Like that's gonna be really funny to watch back, because I'm definitely like 90% asleep, being like, oh, I'm here. And I definitely had things I wanted to say, and they were not the things that I said. Yeah, and then. So yeah, I remember that happening. So because I fell asleep talking. I think I was trying to talk and like rehash whatever. And then I think I fell asleep right after the 4th place boot. I think, because yeah. And then I slept. So I slept for an hour, and then I slept for 2-ish hours on the bus. And then, God, I probably went to bed at like 10 the next night or something, and slept like a good like almost 12 hours. So I think I was able to recover relatively quickly. I was just like tired. I think when I got back from the wine tour, it was probably at like 5. Probably slept, woke up, did something, slept. But like I was okay. I think I would do it again. I've played minis till like 2 or 3 before, not really 7. But I lived, certainly.
Yes, of course. That's why you're here talking to us now. We appreciate it. All right, Kyle, let's move on to your boot episode here. We don't have that many things to talk about, because I think it really comes down to a couple of things. And first off, we have Evan kind of like pitching his case as to why he used the safety without power on Karli immediately. He kind of had to defend it. He used it as an aggressive point to Kayla, being like, I did this to save you. And he used it as a thing to Karli. It was like, no, I needed to save you right away. Despite the fact that Karli's name didn't really come up as an option at all ever. And we get into the immunity challenge, which you've already mentioned, Kyle.
Yeah, I realized I skipped ahead a bit.
You did, but it's fine. It's fine. Whatever. We're here for you guys. And we get into this immunity challenge. It's Fijian Battleship, named after the fact that the last time we saw Battleship on Survivor was in Survivor Fiji, episode 14, or season 14. And this is a sponsored challenge. We have a reward from Freak Like Me Etsy. We love working with Freak Like Me. McKenna gets a lot of things from Freak Like Me, and the winner of this challenge will get a replica immunity idol and a fire token, which is pretty cool. And this is a pretty simple challenge, right? It's Battleship. Straightforward. Like you said, Kyle, you can put your ship either horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. It's not apparent in this edit, and this edit makes it kind of look bad, because like people are guessing all over the place, and like there doesn't seem to be much strategy to the way people are guessing. I don't think it's possible for us without releasing the entire footage to show how long this challenge went on and how many
Right.
times you all said the same space over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I had a conversation with somebody about this. In traditional battleships,
Yeah,
can you go diagonal or no?
it was a point of contention. By the
Yeah.
rules, no. Can you make your ships do it? You
Ha,
can figure it out.
I see. Interesting. But regardless, I was aware, listening to Alex,
Mhm.
that you could go diagonal, or
Yeah.
maybe McKenna said. I thought it might have been Alex. And they, I felt okay about playing and remembering. I remember specifically at one point when Karli guessed the tile A1, that locked in. I knew where the rest of her ship was
Yeah.
based on things that had happened around it. But I don't think anyone else did
Mhm.
because, well, they didn't sink her, unless maybe they didn't want to. Um, and then, I mean, I could belabor this, but it was regrettable, regrettable that Kayla hit me.
Yes.
But it's a difficult one because with the misses not being on the board,
Mhm.
you're really trying. The main thing you want to focus on is, okay, where's my ship? And then, even when something gets hit, there's a lot of guesses around it. It's challenging and it's stressful, and we're tired. Definitely not easy.
Mhm.
I like it as a challenge though, kind of luck based, but once you can remember things, it reduces the reliance on luck. So I like how the game develops kind of through the rounds.
Mhm. That's the very interesting thing about the placement of this challenge in this mini is it's so late at this point, right? Like we're dealing with like 10, 11 o'clock at this point. You've been playing this game all day, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's this memory challenge, but it's different than your typical memory challenge. You have to be really aware of everything that's going on and pay attention to what everyone's saying the entire time. Um, it's interesting because there's a lot of different strategy to take with this. Obviously, there's pinpointing and then working around, which is good when you know where someone is and you can play off of what other people are doing. Sam gets a big advantage here by being the last person to have his ship hit at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
No one seemed to want to fire on that column.
no, no, that entire area, Sam picked the perfect spot for this challenge. Like you said though, like Kayla's not paying attention enough to know that you are in a spot, and then she sinks you, leaving her as the only one, and she's disadvantaged against Sam at that point too because she already has been hit, so Sam has at least an idea of where she is located on the board. Um, I really like this challenge. I really liked it in Survivor Fiji. There's a lot of strategy that goes into it. In Survivor Fiji, we see Stacy hit her own battleship in order to sink someone else. And that's like part of the strategy is like knowing when to make those sacrifices based on like the knowledge you have of the game so far. And yeah, like I said, Sam pulls off probably a well-needed immunity win with this one based on everything that's going on in that scramble. It seemed at this point that you, Kayla, Evan, and Karli are really planning on going forward together as a four, and that Sam is the person to take out here. But Sam takes himself off the table, and you guys have to play the game more there instead.
Yeah, I'd like to believe that we would have gone sort of like 2v2 and voted Sam out. Although even again, because I say something about what my vote ultimately was when Sam is immune, that like I was prepared to make not the best strategic play because
Right.
it just favored the way I wanted to play. Um, in not really considering, say, flipping on Kayla there.
Mm-hmm.
That was just something I wasn't going to do there. Um, and yeah, because that's something where, if you think about the long game, maybe it's not even the best strategic move because that's potentially losing a vote because, your long-term partner in the game might feel aggrieved. So yeah, not having what I would have considered sort of like the easier option to vote out Sam there made it hard, and also kind of I pretty much knew I was going to go home there. So that was, and I think I said it right to somebody. I think I said it to Karli. Like, this is like the one outcome I was not hoping for. I
Right.
I was okay with anyone else winning it, but that was very clutch. I mean, he got it. He was able to stay alive, pinpoint people's
Mm-hmm.
ships and sink them, and really have all the, it was that he was a swing vote in that tribal, right? People, we
Yeah.
made our pitches back and forth, and yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get into that or if we can just get into it now.
Oh, I mean, we're going to get into it for sure. I just want to kind of touch on the fact that immediately, as soon as we're in that scramble, Kayla's in a room with Evan and Karli and says, "Okay, Kyle." And Evan tries to turn that on you towards the end. And that really leads us into this tribal council. And it's really interesting because Sam has immunity here, and we don't see him pushing the vote at all. Despite the fact that in the last couple of episodes, we've seen him in his confessionals like, I have to make a move. I have to make a move. Simona, what is Sam's best play here? Is it better for him to like let these four go at each other, or should he have taken the reins and been like, this is who's going home this round?
I think I said this earlier. I think Sam really needed a move
Mm-hmm.
on his resume, and I think having immunity at this point, especially, he absolutely could have taken a little bit more of an active role. But yeah, I think there was definitely a point where I was very threatened by Sam, especially by the quieter game that he was using to slip by. And then it got to a point where I was looking at everyone else and I was like, okay, but what's he doing a little
Mm-hmm.
bit? And so I think he could have taken a little bit like more of an active role, yeah, rather than letting them duke it out. I mean, or he could have just been like let them duke it out and then been like, I'm the decider and I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. You know, there's power in that too. So I think there are a lot of different ways that he could have played it. Yeah, I still believed that Kayla was more threatening at the end than Kyle, which was why I pushed Kayla over Kyle when I went, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And also because I thought maybe Kyle would work with me once
Right.
Kayla was gone, which I didn't think Kayla would work with me. But yeah, I think from Sam's perspective, taking one of them out was certainly the right move. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely was surprised to see Kyle show up next.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And another interesting point we have with Sam here is Sam mentions we have a conversation between Sam and Evan where Sam's asking about your boot in particular, Simona, and like because he's been left out, and
Yeah.
he was really priding on himself of like knowing where all the votes were going all the time, rather than except for the Vogl vote and being a part of everything. But now he's kind of just been blindsided by you going home, and he still doesn't have that agency that we would normally see as someone who's safe at a vote to push this vote. And it's very interesting that because of that, we get down to this point where right before tribal council, Evan tells you, Kyle, hey, Kayla pitched your name. Like immediately pitched your name. And I mean, from a logical standpoint, I totally understand that, right? She's in a room with the two of them. She has to pitch your name
Yes.
because you're literally the only person not there. And we get into tribal council, and you just say, I want to finish my conversation with Evan.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, maybe it was a bit of, the way we went about it was like a little cagey to start. Kind of goes a little bit of back and forth, I think, to get out what we were trying to talk about, I guess. Yeah, I think maybe I was at times like too willing to believe the first thing people said.
Right.
Because as Kayla goes, she goes, well, I had to say that, you know, what else am I going to say? Which of course is like, oh yes, logical. So, you know, and then it of course then transforms into everything else it becomes, because he tells me very clearly that like, we are playing together. I'm not voting for you.
Right.
And then, and I believe this. And of course that's what happens. And then, you know, the only thing that was like really, there were a couple things I found that were kind of interesting about that is because when, yeah, Karli, I think like eventually like kind of says like deterministically like, well, I will 100% vote for Kyle. I'm 100% voting for Kyle here, because I guess I had again sort of popped up like, well, do I want to vote for Karli or do I want for Evan? But then we actually just vote for Evan instead.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember why or even how we were able to be solidified on that. Like, I even know I just watched it last night. Like, because if we had said yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know why the
Kayla says, as
I
like
guess
she's
she
going on
says it
her
maybe.
thing, she says, Sam, your best move is to vote with us. We're voting Evan.
Right. So I guess I just had to listen up there.
And
Yeah.
I think it's like it's pretty similar to the way that you've dictated a couple of votes at this point, right? Where it's that last name out type of idea, right? Where with obviously with the Mighty Ducks and everything of Vogl, and switching that on to Andy right afterwards. It's that last name out there can sometimes be the deciding factor for things. The interesting thing with this vote is your name seemed to be the first one out there this time. And when it came down to Karli was like, yeah, I'm voting Kyle. Evan votes you, but in his voting confessional, we even say, I don't know why we're voting Kyle here. We should be voting Kayla.
Yeah, that was, I guess, a little bit tough to go on one where, and then Simona, you kind of said the same thing. You were surprised if it was going to be one of the two of us to see it be me. So I mean, I guess that's unfortunate. And I think that's why I said in my confessional, which I honestly thought I came off way saltier because I described it as Kayla putting her foot in my mouth.
Yeah.
Because basically all it did was just like, if you like move the needle a little bit, because it's probably like similar, just go, oh, just Kyle, just by a little bit, right? And it worked in that round, right? So I go there. But you know, she didn't write my name down, so I was not really upset. I think I would have been pretty bummed if it was like just a 4-1 there, but that didn't happen. Yeah, it was interesting. Like Alex had to like put the mic really close and repeat himself a couple times to get us to stop because it wasn't really going anywhere, right? I think we'd made our pitches to Sam, and that was how he was gonna show what he was gonna do.
Well, so we get to it. The vote happens. Evan tries to play his bagel one last time as a hidden immunity idol. McKenna shuts that down immediately.
Oh yeah, she was done that.
And
I enjoyed the bit.
we get to the vote. It is 3 votes Kyle, 2 votes for Evan. Kayla does in fact stick with you and vote for Evan there. Was there any chance at all that you would vote Kayla at this vote?
Me? No.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, because it just felt like it would actually. I mean, I don't think I was thinking about it this deeply at the time. It was more like, no, we're playing together. We're going to continue to play together. But I also don't know if it would have been a move that long term worked well for me at all.
Right.
It would potentially have her not want to vote with me if I was sitting in the final. Then additionally, if I don't win the next immunity, I think the rest of them just like high five and say see ya.
Yeah.
and then I'm just gone anyways. So I don't think I would have liked to lose or be out of the game in that fashion. Even if sure 4 is higher than 5, I wouldn't want to have my game go that way. So no.
Yeah. So had you knocked around home here, who were you hoping to sit with at the end of this game? Like as a final 3?
So you're saying assuming Kayla goes if she's not in the 4?
I would probably say it assumes that Evan goes in this situation.
Oh, right. I guess if our vote worked.
Yeah.
Sure. So if our vote worked, probably Karli and Kayla, I think.
Okay.
Mostly, I think I've just been most achievable. I think if we were going to a 3 there, it would be maybe just like, easier. If so, one of the 3 of us say wins, if Sam doesn't back-to-back immunity, which of course could be a possibility in that hypothetical. Yeah, I feel like and it's not to, I don't know how to say it in the way I would like to, but I'm more concerned about if I were to lose to somebody, feeling really good about losing to them, rather than, oh, I know I can beat somebody at the end.
Right.
That's how I would have made my determination.
And then I guess a big question here is like, how would you have differentiated your game from Kayla's, considering how like lockstep you two were this entire game?
Yeah, if Kayla was around, I don't know. I feel like probably trying to lean into some of the pre-merge heat that I was feeling. And I think in like the earlier part of the merge phase too, maybe because I guess she was immune a few times. Yeah, I just felt like my name was on people's minds more. It would have been difficult, I think, because a lot of the things we did together.
Yeah.
And yeah, it would have been tough because like I'm also not this person to kind of like try to throw somebody under the bus.
Right.
In a spot like that. So And then I guess that's again why where I'd be happy to in the end, like if it was say in this hypothetical like a close vote, people played similar games and there's like one or two factors that had it go away from me, I wouldn't be upset about it.
For sure. All right. Well, we always end after the Snuff with the same thing. So, Simona, we're going to start with you. What is one word you would use to describe your game?
I think I would have to go with perception. I think I focused a lot on perception
I like that.
of myself and others.
And Kyle, same question to you.
Embracing.
Yeah, I think that's really good because I think you did really embrace what was happening around you and just ran with it. And actually, Mike Rick, I did ask a question here about like, was it a strat like in a mini, say getting that last name out there, and you did it quite a few times is very important. Was that a strategy you had, or did you just kind of go with it in the moment?
Those were sort of out of maybe not 100% knowing what was going to go on. With the Vogl vote, looking back at it, I didn't actually maybe realize how solid everybody else was on flipping on him anyways.
Yeah.
It was more of just like a called shot played out. The one on to Andy was more, well, I mean, it was a 3-minute public scramble. Yeah. That was just like, oh my gosh, anything but me. And as a first thought. So I suppose strategic, I guess, just kind of off the cuff.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's episode of After the Snuff. Simona, Kyle, thank you so much for joining me. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel so you know we're in finale week. It's an exciting week here at DCP, so you're not going to want to miss how Moneta Bank ends. So make sure you check out those episodes when they drop this week, and we'll see you next week when we talk to the remaining 4 people of this cast.